Good night, good morning, and good start of the afternoon. My name is Aurélien Laurent, with my colleague Mr. Banova, co-director of the Coax Foundation. Will be having a match, the first match between two teams who are competing in the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament organized by the Coax Foundation, 8th edition. So in this group H, we have two teams who are on the opposite side of the planet for us in Europe. So we have the University of the South Pacific in Fiji, who is starting today together with the University of Malaya in Malaysia. These two teams are new, but as well they will be having a later match with two other universities in the same group. So I give the floor to my colleague for hosting this match, Mr. Banova.
Thank you very much. And once again, good day to our participants and also to the viewers and of course our esteemed judges that will be reviewing this match. Today marks indeed the day one for the group phase, which connects all the debate teams by the common topic, and that is climate change, state responsibility, and environmental law. Specifically, the two teams today will face off on the debate statement on whether or not coastal states are specifically obliged to enforce international environmental standards to mitigate the adverse effects of fishing and mining on marine ecosystems. So in a short while, we'll of course find out which team will defend which side during the argument by the algorithm that allocates the positions. But it's time first to learn a bit more about our participants today. So I would like to give the floor to University of South Pacific, specifically to Mr. or Ms. Adi Salseni Gonolevo.
Hello everyone, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Bulavinaka and hello, my name is Andy Salaseni Ngonelevu, but please call me Sala. I am a final year student doing a Bachelor of Law and a Bachelor of Arts here at the University of the South Pacific, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. For University of Malaya, I would like to ask Mr. Pavandeep Singh.
Hello, good morning everyone from Malaysia. My name is Pavandeep Singh, a third year law student from University of Malaya. Good luck for the round.
Indeed. For University of South Pacific, Mr. Samuela Tiunabua.
Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Tinumbua. I'm also a third year law student of the University of the South Pacific, and all the best to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. For University of Malaya, Mr. Kenneth Chinyiwei.
Hi, good day everyone. My name is Kenneth Chinyiwei and I'm also a third year law student at the University of Malaya. Good luck for the round.
Right. For University of South Pacific, Mr. Shivneshram.
Hello everyone, my name is Shivnesh. I'm a third year student at the University of South Pacific, pursuing a degree in Law and International Affairs, and good luck to everyone.
Welcome. For University of Malaya, to complete your three members, Mr. Divagar Tulas Nathan.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm also a third year law student in the University of Malaya. Incredibly happy to be here. Good luck everyone for the round.
Thank you and welcome. We would also like to give a shout out to your mentors and supporters for your journey in the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament. The University of South Pacific is coached by Shivendra Nath and Varunesh Permal. I believe also Mr. Permal is one of the past participants of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament. And the University of Malaya team is coached by Dr. Najwa Rosli. And thus, without further ado, I pass the floor back to my colleague to share his screen and to discover which positions go to which team.
Yes, so I will share my screen in a few seconds, and all of us will be able to see a wheel with the logos, double flags of the institutions. So normally you should see now a wheel with 2 chances for each institution, either to be in favor, either to be against the motion. So we'll click in the center to activate the randomizer, and we'll know which team will start. The team in favor will be starting the match. That will be the University of Malaya will be in favor for this match, and then we'll be starting the match with the first introduction. As a consequence, the University of the South Pacific will be against the motion. So it means concretely, the University of Malaya will be defending the position that coastal states are strictly obliged to enforce international environmental standards to mitigate the adverse effect of fishing and mining on marine ecosystems, while the University of the South Pacific will defend the position that coastal states are not specifically obliged to enforce international environmental standards to mitigate the adverse effect of fishing on marine ecosystem. So now you have 5 minutes to review your notes, and then we'll start with the introduction by the University of Malaya.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. The time for final preparation is now over. We'll be starting by hearing the opening statements in the in favor position. Thus, I would like to ask the team of University of Malaya to take the floor. You will have 4 minutes.
Just to check, am I visible and audible to everyone?
You are.
All right, perfect. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Greetings to all members of the floor. As such proposition, our burden of proof in this debate is to answer the singular overarching question: which side mitigates the harms of fishing and mining in coastal states better? Insofar as we prove to you on side of proposition that we have a better likelihood of success in this form of mitigation, we take this debate. Secondly, we also think it's extremely important to realize that there has to be a counter proposal from team of opposition to tell us what would their model look like if these obligations do not exist on side of opposition. Firstly, let's deal with two parts of framing before going into argumentation. The first is on international environmental standards and what do they look like. Here we bring reference to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas, the UNCLOS, Article 194, which provides that all states have an obligation to protect and preserve the marine wildlife, the marine environment, to their best means possible. This is also consistent with Article 208, which I think is extremely important because it specifically obliges coastal states to care about this marine wildlife as well as to make sure that they are done in accordance with their own national jurisdiction. This part of framing, Judge, on principle proves to you that a specific obligation exists under the UNCLOS, and this is something which both sides have to concede into this debate. Let's move to the second part of framing then, to be as charitable as possible. The second part of framing then is to deal with the harms of said activities of mining and fishing. What does this look like? Firstly, I think it's important to realize that the actors who do this are probably going to be your multinational corporations, your MNCs, and importantly, this detrimental effects looks like A, overfishing, which causes harms in food security and food disruptions. Secondly, we think in mining, where you have smothering wildlife, blocking of sunlight through residue for mining. These are all harms which exist on both sides of the house. These are the harms we're mitigating. What's then our argumentation on side of proposition? Argument one is, why are international standards the most effective method of deterring these harms? Three layers of analysis under this. The first is on the translation of international laws towards local laws. The illustration of this is simple, Judge, that there is an amalgamation of international laws into local legislations all around the world, including coastal states. This looks like a couple of things. The first, this looks like your EU Common Fisheries Policy, which sets a total allowable catches rate to prevent overfishing. This also looks like your mining moratoriums, which are in countries like New Zealand and Namibia, which provide for laws on mining specifically. We think that on this metric alone, this proves to you that it supplies powers to the state to impose sanctions or to decide course of actions in this particular scenario. Second layer of analysis then is to talk about alliances which exist. Because we're talking about international environmental standards, we can bring into account alliances such as the Alliance of Small Island States, AOSIS. And in alliances like this, where countries like Bahamas, Cuba, and Haiti are part of these alliances, what is important to realize is that when you implement or when you have specific obligations based on international environmental standards, the outcome of this is simple. You now have easier regulations because all countries part of these alliances are likely going to follow and adhere to all these international regulations. And this is very important because now you have seamless regulations from all nations in together at the end of the day. Third level and final layer of analysis to my argument then is on the inter-reliance towards other international treaties in these certain countries. This is proven from how coastal states are formally being part of the outcomes of your COP23 or your Paris agreements. This is important to realize because on the signatories of these treaties, it shows to you one major like substantive, right? It proves to you that there's an existing collective effort of policing with international regulations which exist, rather than a singular unilateral approach of nuanced politics or nuanced policies which nations have. On this argument, the impact is simple. The rising threshold of these international laws which exist creates a situations where corporations have to adhere to all this. And when this happens, that's where you get a world where countries are likely going to be better and coastal states are going to be better at the end of the day. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. We'll now hear the opening statement for the against position. University of South Pacific, you now have 4 minutes.
Well, everyone, can you guys hear me okay? Am I visible?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1. Nisambulu Vinaka and greetings to the honorable judges, my colleagues and audience members. We, as a non-affirmative team, disagree with the notion that coastal states are specifically obliged to enforce international environmental standards to mitigate the adverse effects of fishing and mining on marine ecosystems. We advance the following arguments. I will argue the significance of sovereignty and national interest. Shivnesh will consider how United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea provides a framework for enforcement that respects national sovereignty and allows for flexibility in resource management. Samuela will highlight the economic implications to coastal states, most notably to the developing states, on enforcing these international environmental standards, and then Shivnesh will conclude our debate. First off, what is sovereignty? In international law, sovereignty is the right of a state to govern itself and its territories. Enforcing international environmental standards can infringe on the sovereignty and national interests of coastal states, especially when those standards conflict with national economic goals such as maximizing revenue from fishing and mining. Excuse me. Principle 21 of the 1972 Stockholm Declaration and Principle 2 of the 1992 Rio Declaration affirm that states have the sovereign rights to exploit their own resources according to their environmental and development policies, while also bearing the responsibility to ensure that the activities within their jurisdiction do not cause damage to the environment of other states or areas beyond their national jurisdiction. Each coastal state has unique needs, and a one-size-fits-all approach to marine conservation might not work for every country, again, particularly for developing nations with weaker economies. The United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea grants coastal states sovereign rights over fisheries and living resources in the exclusive economic zone and on the continental shelf. Article 56 and 77 provides coastal states with exclusive rights to exploit, develop, and manage their natural resources, granting clear legal title to seabed minerals. These rights are exclusive and unrestricted, meaning there's no requirement to share access or benefits. If a state does not access the minerals or permit others to do so, those minerals can remain untouched. Article 81 gives coastal states the exclusive right to authorize and regulate drilling on the continental shelf for all purposes, while states have obligations to their citizens for their proper use of, the proper use and exploitation of mineral resources. There is really no legal requirement to manage mineral resources sustainably, unlike fisheries. This flexibility allows coastal states to prioritize economic development while being responsible stewards of the environment. In conclusion, coastal states should have the autonomy to manage their resources in a way that aligns with their unique needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. We'll now be entering the rebuttal part of the debate. University of Malaya, you will now have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
All right. Hi. Can I confirm that I'm both visible and audible?
You are.
Time. All right. Just give me a moment to set up my timer. Okay. Starting in 3, 2, 1. A very good day I bid to everyone present here today. I'm going to reaffirm why we are supporting this motion primarily. The first thing I want to do is I want to discharge this argument that my learned counsel on opposition tries to posit on the significance of sovereignty. And I'm going to do so by explaining to you on 3 reasons why sovereignty exists on our side as well. Therefore, the first call out that I want to make within this debate is that sovereignty is not an exclusive argument that side opposition has within this debate. Because note that the burden is one that is significantly untrue, that we don't have sovereignty on our side. Firstly, because our first speaker had already explained why states translate international legislations into local laws. This means states have the power then to explain how these legislations go through and why this amalgamation particularly looks like. The examples of this that we have provided looks like EU fishing laws to prevent overfishing. We explained to you how mining moratoriums in New Zealand and Namibia take place, and this looks like international corporations that then look into assimilation within local laws and policies that take place and have power there. But secondly, we specifically mentioned Article 208 of the UNCLOS agreement, in which we adopt laws subjected to national jurisdiction. This proves to you that sovereignty exists on our side of the house as well. That is the national jurisdiction of these coastal states to implement how they want to exercise their rights of sovereignty within their nation. But thirdly, why does sovereignty always exist regardless of all of these articles? Firstly, because states are able to enforce all of these forms of punishments and enact forms of sanctions against breaches of conducts onto this international environmental preservation. Secondly, in terms of the alliances that these countries are part of, the fact that they are independent signatories to alliances means that they are able to exist and exert their very own sovereignty. But thirdly, because of the inter-alliance with other treaties, which means they are able to exert their forms of power. All of this proves sovereignty, never been prouder to submit.
Thank you. We'll now hear the first rebuttal for the against position, University of South Pacific. You now have 2 minutes.
I'm both visible and audible.
You are.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and my dear audience. To begin with, as part of our rebuttal, we'd like to make it clear while we commend the opening speaker in making their stance, we'd like to highlight two key flaws. The first being that the opening speaker had mentioned that New Zealand and Namibia as examples in their opening speech. However, we reflect on the topic. The topic deals with coastal states, and New Zealand and Namibia are far from being any coastal state. Secondly, the opening speaker had mentioned that there was a rising threshold. However, there was no source cited to this. Moving forward, we'd like to reiterate our stance from my opening speaker, from my university, that the claim that coastal states must enforce international environmental standards overlooks a key fact. UNCLOS already provides a flexible framework that respects sovereignty while promoting shared responsibility in marine resource management. UNCLOS balances sovereignty and international cooperation, in particular Article 56, which grants coastal states sovereign rights over their exclusive economic zones. But at the same time, Article 61 and 62 emphasize flexibility and collaboration. This allows coastal states to engage with foreign entities, negotiate agreements, and regulate resources in line with national priorities. UNCLOS does not impose a rigid obligation, it only allows tailored approaches to marine resource management. Also, coastal states are not only enforcers. You have regional fisheries management organizations that oversee monitoring and enforcement, ensuring that international regulations are upheld without overburdening any coastal state. Also, UNCLOS, in particular with the effect of Article 94, gives responsibility over vessels in particular waters and also offers legal remedies. This proves that marine protection is a shared duty, not solely based on coastal states. Moving forward, it also must be noted that UNCLOS allows.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We'll now hear the second rebuttal for the in favor position, University of Malaya. You have 2 minutes.
All right, just one more time. Am I visible and audible?
You are.
All right, thank you. Okay, starting in 3, 2. There are two things I want to defend right here in my speech based on the previous call out by the previous learned speaker. Firstly, that countries like New Zealand and Namibia are not coastal states. We think this is significantly untrue. New Zealand is one of the sacred states for the Maori population in order for them to carry out our livelihood. But secondly, that New Zealand is the ninth largest coastal state in the world with spanning across 15,000 kilometers. I think this should be regarded as a form of important alliances when they come into moratorium. But secondly, countries like Namibia, our coastal states, are being exploited because of the fact that they don't have defenses and don't have any forms of regulation that they can enforce onto corporations. The fact that corporations are able to buy into these forms of smaller coastal islands and exploit their resources in order to make a profit because of the lack of laws, because international regulations are not able to be enforced within this land, is when you have that specific form of exploitation that we're trying to solve on our side. But secondly, the threshold that increases and why this is extremely important to buy as an impact. We tell you this is analysis and analytical rigor that comes from first speaker that explains to you why now it becomes so much harder for corporations to carry out their mining processes or to carry out things like vast forms of fishing. Note that a lot of times Article 208 also preserves specific economic zones towards these coastal states. That means outside of these economic zones are places that these corporations can fish and farm all of their fishes in the first place. This is the sole problem that causes overfishing, and this is the sole problem that leads to then that slippery slope of exploitation. The fact that we are able to establish this international set of regulations to hold corporations accountable, to sanction them onto behaviors that cause these forms of exploitation, is probably when we can better protect coastal states. All of this proves the impact and the adverse effects are going to be mitigated. Propose.
Thank you. We'll now hear the second rebuttal for the against position. University of South Pacific, you now have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't want to be shouting at the camera. I feel leaves with themselves, so I don't know.
How shouting?
Apologies for that. Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you. Can I first confirm whether I am both audible and visible?
You are.
Thank you. I'll be beginning in 3, 2, 1. Distinguished judges, teams, and audience, we thank our opponents for their perspective. However, our team once again respectfully disagrees with this assertion. Now, I'd like to rebut their arguments on the basis that our opponents fail to consider the economic implications that are imposed upon coastal states. Pushing for coastal states to implement international standards means pushing all small island developing states to regulate marine activities done near their oceans, activities that have mostly been conducted by far more developed countries. Now, why must we impose such obligations to nations that are already struggling economically and socially? Now, in 2021, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development reported that small island developing states are 35% more vulnerable than other developing countries. In 2018, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development reported that upper middle income small island developing states to be 73% more vulnerable than countries at a similar income level. Now, in the recently developed UN Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, 70% of small island developing states score above the median, indicating significant structural vulnerability and a lack of structural resilience. Small island developing states are disproportionately vulnerable to crisis and have limited capacity to withstand or adapt to them. Pushing for coastal states to take charge in implementing environmental standards is both unreasonable and takes no consideration of the economic burdens that are already present within these states. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. This marks the end of rebuttals part. We'll now hear the conclusion for the in favor position. University of Malaya, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, before I start, can I just check if I'm audible and visible?
You are.
All right, give me a second to start my timer. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. A very good day, I bid to all the members of the floor. In our first speech, we already sufficiently proven to you that the most important burden to win this debate is on which side can better mitigate the harms that comes from fishing and mining that are caused to like your marine ecosystems. So we have said 3 things that would mitigate all these harms. Firstly, we told you why international standards are the most effective at deterring these harms. We have given you 3 levels of analysis. Firstly, on how this would translate it will be translated into local laws that are binding on inhabitants. Secondly, how we can form alliances according to your geopolitical locations, and thirdly, how this whole mechanism of interreliance of member states would better impose international standards that can mitigate these harms. Secondly, we tell you sovereignty still exists in our side. It's not an exclusive benefit of opposition in today's debate. We tell you that states can still enforce their sanctions in instances where there are breach of these international standards, and how your alliances and independent states can still maintain their sovereignty in our model. And thirdly, we tell you on how like corporations exploit vulnerable coastal states in status quo, and we tell you that with international standards we can deter these vulnerable coastal states and have safeguarding mechanisms against these corporations that are extremely exploitative in nature. What does opposition tell you then? Opposition has focused their case solely on the argument of sovereignty. They did not provide any counter model as to like how their whole model will be able to deter and mitigate these harms that are caused by fishing and mining to the marine ecosystem. They failed to provide any form of counter mechanism that explains this. Secondly, opposition tells you that these nations are already suffering. They are small developing states, they are vulnerable states, and they are extremely disproportionately vulnerable, and it's actually unreasonable to impose this form of standards to them. We tell you that we flip this argument and we have sufficiently proven to you as to like how in our responses and in argumentation presentation, we have told you how corporations that exploit vulnerable coastal states, we protect their vulnerability too. And at the same time, we also provide to you an additional layer of mitigation, which is the most important burden in today's debate, in which how we can mitigate these harms. Therefore, extremely proud to propose.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. We'll now hear the conclusion for the against position. University of South Pacific, you now have 2 minutes.
Just confirming, am I both audible and visible?
You are.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable judges and my fellow colleagues. As we conclude, we reaffirm that coastal states are specifically not obliged to enforce international environmental standards to mitigate the effects of fishing and mining. Salah, being the first speaker, emphasized sovereignty and national interest, and showing that rigid international standards infringe on coastal states' rights and conflict with economic priorities. A one-size-fits-all conversation approach is neither feasible nor fair for developing nations. I highlighted that the UNCLOS flexibility, which respects sovereignty while promoting shared responsibility, governs their resources on their own terms. They are not the sole enforcers of resource management. Samuel addressed economic realities of smaller and developing states which already face significant financial challenges. Imposing strict obligations without considering their economic survival is both impractical and unjust. Moreover, UNCLOS allows economic flexibility. Many developing states, for example, Kiribati, have a system called the Vessel Day Scheme, and under the parties to the Nauru Agreement, this allows Kiribati to give out leasing days to fishing fleets. This demonstrates that UNCLOS allows sustainable resource management without forcing rigid enforcement. UNCLOS already respects national sovereignty, and coastal states can freely determine their own policies. Overregulation could undermine sovereignty, create diplomatic tensions, and hinder cooperation. Lastly, marine protection is a shared responsibility, my dear audience. Issues like climate change, plastic pollution, and illegal fishing beyond exclusive economic zones, which holds states solely accountable, ignores the role of multinational corporations, global markets, and flag states. Expecting them to act alone is both unrealistic and unfair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. You can now all relax. You're no longer graded after this part. Well done. Well done, everyone. All right, so we currently don't have any judges with us on the session. They will be reviewing your debate within 2 business days, after which they will submit their grading forms, which we will then be sharing with you, of course. Your teams will be facing another opponent in 2 weeks and then in a month's time, of course, within your group phase, within your group setup. But as is the tradition for the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament, I would now like to start the feedback round with you, our dear participants, perhaps starting with the University of Malaya. Mr. Pavandeep Singh, how did you find the debate, the research, and were you already familiar with the concepts of law that were used during the debate?
First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to everyone for completing the round. Round of applause to all of us for starting this round. Secondly, I'd also like to say the research was quite fun and quite intriguing. I think there was a lot of different nuances or different aspects to be able to understand how marine preservation laws actually work, because I haven't taken the elective subject of environmental law yet. So I have to do my own research using my own legal databases to understand how these laws actually work. So it took some time, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to learn about these laws and understand how these laws work. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. For the University of South Pacific, the same question to Mr. Tinabua. How did you find the research, and were you perhaps already familiar with the topic?
Just like my friend from the University of Malaya, it's quite fun, especially the research process. I also haven't taken environmental law, so it was a whole new learning experience. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and also enjoyed this little debate.
Thank you. For University of Malaya, Mr. Tulasti, how did you find the topic, and perhaps did you hear some of the arguments from the other team that your team was also preparing for that side of debate?
Hi, all right. So I want to thank everyone for the wonderful debate as well. And I definitely have to say, yes, So we had quite a few opposition arguments on sovereignty that we quite well fleshed out as well, which I think was delivered very well by the our friends from the University of the South Pacific. I think it was a overall very great job and very fun debate. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. For my apologies. For Ms. Gonalevu, the same question for your side of for your team. How was the topic for you, and were you surprised, or did you hear familiar arguments from the University of Malaya?
Thank you very much. We were prepared. The University of Malaya, you guys did a great job, and congratulations on the first round. It was a very interesting topic, again, but we did a great job, both sides, I believe. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. University of Malaya, Mr. Chinyibe, how did you find the debate? And is there anything that you would like to wish your opponents for the next match in 2 weeks, perhaps?
All right. Firstly, I'd like to thank our opponents for the amazing debate round. It was really eye-opening. I found that the debate was really interesting. It really deepened our horizon on like international laws, especially those that are related to climate change. And I've only one wish for our opponent, which is all the best in your upcoming rounds.
Thank you. And for University of South Pacific, Mr. Ram, how did you find the debate? And what would you like to wish your opposing team for the next debates?
Well, to begin with, thank you. Well, the debate was fun, all in all. Either sides of the arguments were both well presented, in my personal opinion, and I liked hearing the counter arguments that the University of Malaya had, especially to our rebuttals, which is very nice. They were able to think on their feet. Moving forward, I wish them all the best. And in terms of the topic for us, this resonates a lot more with us because we're from the Pacific. So coastal states and enforcement, that resonates a lot with us here.
Right. Well, thank you very much for sharing. And on my side, really good job to both teams. It's been a pleasure. And what a first match in the day one. So you're already starting strong. I will be now passing the floor to my colleague, Professor Lavanche, for a little networking session at the end.
Yes, so this is the opportunity, because it's your first match, to as well to connect and see what you have in common, obviously, because you just start the competition. You will have two other match right after this one during the next weeks. All of you study law. All of you are going to have a legal career at some point. So I would like first to ask each team, so you can see which one want to start answering the question in each team. How did you choose to participate, and how was the selection process? How was actually the process in order to designate you to represent your university? So yes, this is my two questions to start with. So I will ask the team from the University of Malaya. How did you choose? Why did you choose to participate to this competition? How was actually the process of designation or selection?
All right, so thank you very much for the question. We're really happy to get this opportunity to participate this year as well. I think I speak on behalf of my team that we're incredibly proud to represent Southeast Asia, to be the only Southeast Asia team here within this debate. So we noticed this advert actually on this law debate tournament, and we're all three former debaters from the University Malaya Club, and this piqued our interest by a little bit, since all three of us are batchmates, classmates, in fact, and law students. So we forwarded this advert to our admin and requested if it would be possible for us to represent University Malaya within this tournament. So there wasn't really a selection process. I think it was because we were really interested to attend this tournament and really interested to see this entire tournament all the way through. Did we go about the joining criteria of this competition? Yeah.
Thank you very much. On the side of the University of the South Pacific, how was it for you? Who wants to start?
Hello, everyone. That's how we say hello in Fiji.
Bula.
So for us, we were asked I was asked by one of the former members from last year's team if I was wanting to join, and the other teammates were asked by, I think, our coach and another member of the team. So there was a bit of a selection process, and I figured, oh, well, why not? It's my final year. I didn't realize I was very surprised when I got the notification that I was shortlisted. So I just went in like with a free mind, and that's how we got selected. So we were asked to join, we applied, we got shortlisted, we got interviewed, and that's how we're in the team. On behalf of the team for the University of South Pacific, this is a very big thing because it's our first time actually representing the university on such a big stage, and we're very glad for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I will ask a question a bit more cultural, because I'm very fortunate to have been in Kuala Lumpur and in Suva myself, but years ago. So I've been a few days in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and I've been as well almost a week in Suva 5 years ago. So I enjoyed. I mean, it was different trips, huh? but I enjoyed very much actually, and particularly the food. So now I will ask each team what would be the first thing if, in case, for example, the Malaysian team comes to Fiji, what they should eat in Fiji, in Suva or Nandi. So what would be the first food? Something that you have particularly on your island. So nobody wants.
Well,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
I was thinking because there's so many food I love to eat.
Mm.
I would suggest lovo. It's a traditional earth oven for Fijians.
Mm.
Usually, it's only done like at special occasions like Christmas and Easter, but sometimes every Sunday we do it. So they put all the food in this big earth oven. So they dig it up. They put like hot rocks, and we tinfoil food. So we put fish, we put chicken, we put taro, we put cassava, and all that, and it's covered and it's left cook. It's really nice. My favorite, I honestly always go I always go for second methods, honestly speaking, because they usually cook a lot since it's a big thing. So
Thank-
lovo.
Thank you very much. Do you want to add anything to others, or you think this is what they have to try the first day? Yes? Okay, perfect. Same applies to for the team in Malaysia. So for the first time, the Fijian team will come to Kuala Lumpur. What they should try when they arrive in your beautiful city?
All right. To preface this, every delicacy in Malaysia is amazing. I think every bit of food in our country is sensational. So when you come here, please come here hungry because we would love for you to try everything. But if I had to choose a favorite, I would choose this dish called nasi lemak, which is coconut rice with anchovies, a sauce, and sometimes with chicken as well. And that is the staple dish in Malaysia. I think my teammates have different options too. Kenneth can do that.
All right. Personally, for me, my favorite dish is called char kway teow. So it's like a Chinese dish which is fried flat noodles with like soy sauce and a lot of stuff. And it's a very popular dish back in my hometown, Penang, which we are famously known for our food. Only Penang has good food in Malaysia. Other states like Kuala Lumpur, all the food, it's not nice.
Yeah, and thirdly, I think it's important to say that Malaysia is a multiracial country. So you have a bunch of different races here, along with them, a bunch of different cuisines and different food as well. So I think another food that we recommend is definitely kolomi, and this comes from the Bornean side of Malaysia. It's basically noodles, but with a very special gravy that makes it delicious. Along with that, a lot of natives drink it together with tuak, which is a local rice wine or fermented drink.
Okay, many thanks. So next time I go to your countries, I will try myself, because indeed it's always better to be introduced by locals about indeed the different, I would say, aspects of the cuisine. And yes, as you can imagine, it's very different than what I have in France, for example. So I'm extremely happy to hear about it. Again, if you want to stay connected after this match, do not hesitate. You can ask us, or you can look for yourself as well on LinkedIn, because you never know, maybe in the future when you'll be lawyers, you will need a lawyer from another country, and this one expert in their national legislation. So do not hesitate when you meet each team, let's say through this group phase and later in the competition as well, to keep contact, and as much as possible, that will be a good community for this edition particularly. So in any case, it was a pleasure for this first match for us in this group particularly. I remind everybody that the second and third match will be against the two other universities, one being United States and one being in France, in Europe. So that will be the two other, I would say, match, but of course, in meanwhile, we'll receive the results from the three judge. This three judge will be giving their grades during the two next business days. Of course, they can watch and rewatch the match, and I send greetings as well to everybody who has been watching the match on YouTube, because we can see you watching from Malaysia and from Fiji. So many thanks again for this session. That was a great start for your competition, and even better welcome for the next two match, I'm sure about it. So many thanks as well, Mr. Banova, who has been with me through this night Europe, concerning this first match, and we are happy to see you during the next two match in 2 weeks, and in 1 month. So stay tuned for everybody as well watching online to follow your team through the competition. So thank you again. Wish you a great rest of the day, and yes, we'll see you very soon as well online. Many thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you, and well done today.
Well done. Thank you. Bye bye.
Well done. Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you so
round.
much. Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.